the image is really important, but it's really up to the individual in terms of getting. You mentioned the word passion. It's really up to you to get as much knowledge, information about your craft that you're going into, so that if people want to just judge you by image, that's fine, but you have so much more underneath that, so you can offer not only the image but also the substance that you have. So if you don't have, if you can't find that substance, then it's going to be up to you to find it, or you will always be judged by image. And sometimes people have had great careers just on image, but if you're serious about it, you're gonna find out everything you can about your craft to make yourself feel you have a platform or a strong foundation. So it's up to you, because people are not going to change so much. It's really up to you to change, as opposed to people. They're going to always judge you on something, one thing or another. So it's really up to you, not them. And yes, to answer your question, it was always kind of like that, sure. I mean, in fact, I'm considered as a background singer myself, because I did all the oohs and ahs and the babies behind Donna Ross, right? And some people laugh, and I said, but I've been laughing all the way to the bank for 50 years. You know? So, Dave offered to let me borrow his book here. I just want to bring this up. You see, I was in the middle on this picture, and most of the pictures in the Supremes, I was in the middle. And because I brought up the point that I was a background singer, I too was not really judged on my talent. And it's taken me all these years to really get my talent where it's strong enough. And so people do not just look at me as a background singer. I now have a name that's very, very important, but I built that name myself. It took a lot of work, and I think it was because of my passion. I love being on stage performing for people. I mean, I just love, like, stop in the name of love before you break my heart. Think it over. Think it over. And then, of course, my background parts that was the lead part there. And I forgot to say, did I say I laughed all the way to the bank for 50 years? I lied, it was only 45, because the first 5 years weren't that lucrative. But the one thing that we had back in those days, or we were given, I should say, in those days, like, you're in a performing arts school, is that the proper name for it? We did not attend that type of school, but all the schools had in the school system art departments. So we were taught, how to sing. We were taught how to read music and all this kind of thing. So we basically had a good foundation. When we went to Motown Records, we were very proud to see that they had a department there that taught us etiquette and finishing school, like the Hollywood studios. And so after we would record a song, then we would go into one of the areas, like I visited some of the music department's classrooms in there, and we had that type of classroom, but without all of the technology there. In fact, we only had the four tracks back in those days. And anyway, so we had this teacher called Mrs. Powell, and she would teach us etiquette or finishing school type things. And she said, one day you'll be singing before kings and queens. Well, we laughed at her. We're like, sure. We were living in the projects, very poor, and whoever could think we were going to be singing for kings and queens. So we just kind of laughed. But anyway, they were teaching us these things, and we decided to listen. And the one teacher said, I want to show you how to get in and out of a limousine. Now, we didn't really even know what a limousine was back then, right? But anyway, she said, this is the improper way. So she approaches a chair, and she does like this. Right? Now, I remember recently just seeing in some of the tabloids where they show one of the starlets, one of the singing groups, getting in the car and didn't have any proper underwear on. So it dawned on me, had she had Mrs. Powell teaching her, she would have gotten into the limo properly. But anyway, this is the proper way to get into a limousine. Say, for instance, all you guys are paparazzis, and so you approach your car, and then you turn this way towards the paparazzi, and you slide in like this, and cross your legs like that. and then, you know, you close the door. So that's the proper way. And the funniest part about it was after the class, that particular day, our teacher got in, she left the recording studio, got into her car the improper way, and we were standing up there watching her. We just died laughing because she was rather heavy. And, but if you have an opportunity to go to the Shipley Art Gallery, you'll see on one of the videos there Mrs. Powell teaching us, and she always told us, she says, you ladies and guys are like diamonds in the rough, and we're just here to polish you. And I always thought that was such a wonderful way of making us feel good about ourselves. You know, you're diamonds, you guys are diamonds, and you're being polished here to make you go out and shine. So you will have that substance instead of just the visual look. I think, did I answer that question? What was the question?
I can't remember.
I want to end it in saying that what we're seeing today on a lot of the reality television shows is a lot of dysfunctional sort of things that people are doing, and even some of the groups now, who are some of the famous groups who are out there, or individuals, a lot of them have not been trained properly. So you see them making some really bad choices. You see them making some huge mistakes. And all I can say is that they need to be taught before they become famous, because then you don't go out there and fall on your face in front of millions of people on television. So.
Indeed. Do you mind if I pick up on something you mentioned before? You talked about the technology in the classrooms, and the 4-track recorders that we have.
Yes.
We have some music technology students here, don't we? Yeah, hi guys. These guys are studying the recording process and the technology surrounding that. It was a lot different when you started, wasn't it?
Yes, yes.
Did you get to overdub, or was everything done live?
Well, we were very fortunate, because when we started singing, recording at Motown Records, we were recording right there with the musicians, and that was so much fun. I mean, I don't know if you heard this song by Michael McDonald and Patti LaBelle.
On my own.
On my own, once again. Well, they actually recorded their voices in different cities or different states or something like that, and then the technicians put it together. Well, we didn't do that. In the early days, we recorded right there with the musicians, and it was almost like being at a party. It was like being at a party, because you're singing, the musicians are playing, and you know, you're vibing off of each other, and it's just a great feeling. And as I mentioned, we had the 4-track. We didn't have all these multi-million dollar tracks, whatever they are today. And it was like they would cut the tapes. If they were splicing the tunes together, they would, you know, use a razor and slice it up and all. So it was pretty archaic. But those records have lasted all these years, and people are still listening to them today. So it was something about that 4-track.
Did you have to get all in one take? Did they cut the best bits of each tape together?
No, pretty much everyone tried to get it completely through. And sometimes that was very hard, because if you had someone who was silly in the band, which oftentimes musicians are quite silly. Any musicians in here? Sorry. But you may have heard of the very famous James Jamerson. He was a bassist, and he was a fantastic bass player. So many times he smoked a cigar. So while he was playing his bass, we're in the corner, we're, you know, singing, the band is here, and if he decided not to put his cigar out while we were recording a tune, he'd have to hold it in his mouth while he was playing his bass. I have to hold the bass, I don't know. And oftentimes this cigar ash would get longer and longer and longer. And we're trying to concentrate on our vocals, you know. Like my background part would be, ooh, ooh, beware the happening. Yeah. And so we're like singing, and all of a sudden this ash gets so long, everybody's eyes is on the ash. And we're trying to sing, ooh, and not laugh, and pretty soon the ash would fall off, and then everybody would laugh. They'd have to start all over from the top again. So it was a pretty tedious, that kind of thing. So a lot of times you had to do a take 30, 40 times if somebody keeps messing up, and there's always one person who's going to totally mess up all the time, and so it was never quite, I don't think we ever did a tape once.
No first take.
No, I doubt that. Somebody would mess up either as the lead or the background or the musicians.
There's a lot to go on.